From the words of an astrologer with over 50 years experience, the following is to be a long tutorial intro so that anyone can catch up on any daily horoscope of the month. I will timestamp the description if you need to skip it. In the West, I have seen many people interested in the sun signs and a few are against them, objecting under different grounds. In India, most people are familiar with the moon sign, although in the West, thousands of astrologers are already familiar with the moon signs. Both astrologies, Western and Vedic, known as well as Hindu, Jyotish, or Sidereal, are deep sciences. Western compiled by Ptolemy around 2000 years ago, and Vedic compiled by Parasara and others around 5000 years ago. Western astrology follows the planets in the tropical or terrestrial sky, while Vedic astrology does so in the sidereal or celestial sky. This different reference indicates that both astrologies are powerful, as long as the rules are followed. Some rules and combinations are written and others are discovered. Some people want to know why in astrology there are only 12 signs, and the answer is that we do not know, but it works. In the English alphabet there are 26 letters, and there are 27 letters in the Spanish. Why is this? The general public don't care, but it works. There are 360 degrees in a circle, and there are 365 days in a year. The sun in a year crosses the 12 signs of the zodiac in both the sidereal and the tropical sky. But while the sun signs are more important in Western astrology, the Vedic moon crossing the sidereal signs are more important. Because the speed of the sun is slower and constant than the moon's, it is easier to have dates for the sun signs, while the complicated sign of the moon requires a computer to consider its daily position. Here we have the dates when the sun changes signs and therefore indicates the sun signs in Western astrology. However, we have to consider that these dates are general, as some years the sun changes the day before or after, but the dates given here are general. And this is why we recommend to those born on the cusps of the signs to check for their exact signs. For example, every year we celebrate the summer solstice on the 21st of June, when the sun enters the tropical, meaning terrestrial sign of Cancer. But this year, it happened on the 20th of June 2024 at 8:51 Greenwich Mean Time. As another example, if you were born on the 22nd of March, you are considered to be a native of Aries in Western astrology, and therefore, in theory, share the characteristics of Aries with every 12th person in the world. Most people think that astrology is about planets, signs, and horoscopes. Many consult their sun signs in newspapers or in magazines that offer the astrological trends for the year, month, or week. Of course, the sun sign trends offered are superficial. For 1 in 12 people, there is a difference that may even be copied over from another year by a random journalist. Vedic astrology, however, has ancient scripture writing the rules, so even vagueness is scrutinized if they dare. Most are familiar with the 12 signs of the zodiac, 9 grahas in Vedic astrology versus 12 planets in Western astrology, where each sign measures 30 degrees for a complete 360. In Western astrology, the horoscopes consider the 12 signs and the 12 planets in circular graphics, and in Vedic astrology, the horoscopes are represented in square graphics, whereby the most used format looked like this: 12 signs representing 12 sectors or houses, while in second graphic, we see the main designation of those 12 houses, their meaning. Some classic books give rules considering from the Lagna or ascendant sign or from the moon sign, as both points are valid for reference. For example, they say Mars in the 4th house from the natal ascendant or from the natal moon. As another example, according to the question put to the astrologer, a house in particular is observed. When the nature of the question is a job, one studies the house 10, and when the question is about home or education, we focus on the 4th house. So this is the rule to take as reference, and when considering the planetary transits we apply the same. The reading of the planetary transits is fun and easy. Every astrologer has one style to see them. Remember that from your own sign there are 12 houses to consider. Comparing these, one has Aries in the 1st house, the other has Virgo in the 1st house. For Aries Lagna as sun sign or moon sign, Scorpio is the 8th house for the former, but Aries for the latter. When a planet in the calendar is seen moving into Leo, for example, the 5th house will be affected for the former and the 12th house for the latter. In other words, the sun changing signs affect the 12 signs in a different way. Some say that the transits are good or bad according to the houses affected, but that is just a general rule. Other factors like planetary periods must be considered. The reading is very general, but nevertheless, they can give a good idea of the effects of the planets moving around. The faster a planet moves across a sign, the lesser its effects are visible, unlike the clearer visibility of either slow or retrograde planets. Of all the planets, the sun and the moon never go retrograde. Rahu and Ketu, or the nodes of the moon, are always moving retrograde, while the rest of the planets alternate between direct movement and retrograde. As a reference, I see the planetary positions every day to have an idea of where they are. It helps to have a monthly calendar to see them as a forecast. In the beginning, one learns about the effects of the planets in signs, either in direct or retrograde motion, and with practice, one learns about their moving in nakshatras or constellations. The signs are 30 degrees wide and the nakshatras only 13 degrees plus 20 minutes of arc each. One learns about the effects of the planetary conjunctions. For practical purposes, we are going to see the chart of America, the one of its independence, 4th of July 1776, and see how it is affected by the planetary transits. I like to follow this chart for reference because somehow America is a focus in the world and we have the data. For some countries it is difficult to have a trusted horoscope. In the weekly readings of the calendar, we are going to elaborate on some interesting points, and thus we are going to learn about the secrets of astrology as a science. Your feedback is welcome to clarify or improve this series of calendars. Every planet can be good or bad, although from a higher perspective, every planet is helping us to move higher in our spiritual aims. Every planet behaves differently according to the sign and house that it is visiting, whether the sign is odd or even, cardinal, fixed or movable, whether it is a fire sign, earth, air or water, or to do with the house spacing being either empty with one natal planet, 2 planets or more. The moon is the fastest graha as it moves into a sign for between 2 and 2.5 days, or it moves in a cycle of about 1 month. Some say that the sun and the moon are not planets, but in Vedic astrology they are considered as grahas, or centers of energy. For practical reasons, we call them luminary planets. When the moon moves into Gemini, it's another storm that is coming, affecting everyone. Some will capture lightning, and some their plants will get watered. So for those with the moon in Gemini in their first house, the moon returning in Gemini gives you a new energy and a new look into the progress of your projects. Life is about cycles, and this is one of the shortest planetary cycles. Every planetary return triggers the tendencies formed in the natal chart, and here we see the following combinations. Lord of House 1 in House 12. You are likely to have a charitable nature. You may become attracted to the occult sciences, for example yoga, astrology, numerology or tarot. You may have the tendency to travel either on a pilgrimage to holy places or on holidays. You are likely to dedicate your life to the welfare of people in general. If afflicted, this combination is a Daridra yoga. In Sanskrit, Daridra means poverty, and yoga means planetary combination. A Daridra yoga can give poverty, misery, obstacles, losses, illness, separation from loved ones, litigations, failures, sadness, anxiety, irritability, friction and quarrels. You are likely to suffer delays, losses, prison, isolation, illness or a weak constitution. Moon in Gemini and your second house. This is a good time for keeping your eyes on your assets, and be careful what you say as you may be misunderstood. As a native of Taurus, the moon in transit in Gemini, associating the sun and your host planet Venus, can give you positive results around you. A very busy time is likely ahead, and try not to lose opportunities. The moon and your host planet Venus will be together in this transit, and so time is in your favor. Moon in Gemini and your third house. At 60-degree angle, the moon in transit is good for your communications. In other words, your feeling and thinking can be better understood. It is a good time as well for listening to others. Your host planet Mars in Aries during this transit gives you positive energies. You may see some obstacles as Mercury is powerful in your 6th house, but your lucky stars are on your side. Moon in Gemini and your 4th house. The moon moving in this angle from your natal sign along with the sun and Venus opens doors to your life. However, you have to prioritize the many projects on your mind. Moon in Gemini and your 5th house. When consulting the planetary transits, the host of the planet in transit should be observed as well as to get a broader view. Mercury rules Gemini, and Mercury during this visit is in Cancer. Therefore, the moon and Mercury are exchanging signs, and in this way, this combination gives positive results to your projects. On the other hand, Saturn, the planet of Aquarius, your moon sign, is in Aquarius, giving you determination in your character. Helped by this transit of the moon in air sign as Aquarius, both planets may give some melancholy together, but also gives needed insights. Moon in Gemini and your 6th house. One helpful rule when consulting the planetary transits is to observe the planet ruling your natal moon sign, which in your case is Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn. Although Saturn is still giving you a shadow on your natal moon, It is strong in Aquarius, and therefore the possible bad effects on you are somehow mitigated during the transit of the moon in Gemini. Natives of Capricorn have been enduring more than 5 years of Saturn's shadow, and they are now almost at the end of their Saddasati, lasting 7.5 years. Although Saddasati is bad in general, sometimes there are good days and even weeks of positive results. Moon in Gemini and your 7th house. This transit affects directly more your associations than yourself, but in a positive way, and therefore you get the benefits from it. The downside is that some unexpected results may slow you down for a while, so be tolerant. Moon in Gemini and your 8th house. The moon moving in this area for natives of Scorpio is good for unexpected results, and the events shown around you help to fortify your character. Obstacles may come, but they are not really bad. You must protect your ideals at all costs. Moon in Gemini and your 9th house. The angle of this transit is 120 degrees from your moon sign, which indicates both signs, Libra and Gemini, to be of the same element of air, and therefore positive results are likely, especially as Venus, the ruler of your moon sign, is involved in this transit. Moon and sun signs are too general to read as we focus on 1 in 12 possible signs, but nevertheless, the influences are for all. When it rains in one place, everyone is affected, unless they are umbrellas or shelter, but when it is cold for all. Moon in Gemini and your 10th house. Considering that Mercury is in transit to your 11th house and is interchanging signs with the moon in transit, this combination gives profits to your professional activities. Furthermore, the moon is in a good angle to your moon sign, and therefore it is a good time to see positive things around you, especially at your workplace. Moon in Gemini and your 11th house. As a native of Leo, your host planet is the Sun and the moon visiting your house 11. They associate with Venus while the Sun indicates positive earnings. Although there is a caution, try to control your expenditure as some losses are possible if you are not careful. Moon in Gemini and your 12th house. Although you may see some losses, you are likely to receive positive insights that can help your projects in the long term. It is almost impossible to give all the astrological details of how the moon or sun readings are made, but advanced astrologers can easily see the general trends.